Hello, my name is Al Benzing, and I'm here to introduce the fourth in a series of B-24 webinars. This is the second webinar by Jim Lux on the B-24 crew hot stuff. Behind me, I wanted to show you the book that represents this story that he is doing, Before the Bell, and that's available for you to order. And I'll talk about that a little more specifically in a moment. We also have the very large book on Ted's Traveling Circus, which is about B-24s as well. It's a definitive history of the 93rd Bomb Group. And lastly, we have continued to offer the Rain of Fire book, which is about the B-29 crew, written by Charles Phillips, a B-29 aircraft commander. That particular book is a 75th anniversary birthday edition for Fifi. So it has some special pages in it. We hope we give that some consideration. So what we're going to be covering today is a continuation of Jim Lux's really interesting webinars on this crew. Hot Stuff was the first heavy bomber to complete more than 25 missions. And of course, you can tell from the tagline that it was before the bell, the Memphis Belle. It is also an effort to recognize Lieutenant General Frank Andrews, who was killed in this aircraft on his way back to the United States. So Jim made significant efforts over the last 10 years, really, to bring their story out, to give them the recognition they deserve. Within our squadron, we, of course, have a B-24 Liberator, Diamond Lil, as well as our B-29 Superfortress Fifi, and we are maintaining them and able to fly them with your support. So here's a little more about the books that I spoke of. And if you are interested in the sneakers, which have the insignia and camo similar to Diamond Lil, those are available to order through this website, cifb29b24.org. Before the Bell came about because of the presentations that Jim Lux is doing, and the authors found it to be a really compelling story. So we hope you would enjoy it as well. I found it fascinating. And then the Ted's Traveling Circus, as I mentioned, and Rain of Fire, which is a B-29 centric book. So Jim Lux is a very driven individual, and he heard this story from a golfing partner of his. He golfed with him for many years, but he didn't realize that he was a crew member on this aircraft that was involved in this incredible history during World War II. But once he did find out about it, he's been on a mission to gain recognition for the crew and for Lieutenant General Frank Andrews, which Andrews Air Force Base is named. So we'll get into this video, and hope you enjoy it, and provide us with any feedback that you would like. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support.
Thank you again, Al, and members of the B-24, B-29 squadron for giving me the opportunity to continue with the story of the B-24 Liberator Hot Stuff and Lieutenant General Frank Maxwell Andrews. Researching this story has been truly a rewarding experience. I met so many wonderful people. I located and became friends with relatives of Hot Stuff's crew and passengers, members of the 93rd Bombardment Group Association, and many wonderful people. My goal was to get long overdue recognition for Hot Stuff and her crew, and to revive the legacy of one of America's great military leaders, Lieutenant General Andrews. Little did I realize it would be a 10-year effort, and it's not over yet. I would like to take a minute or two to review the story of Hot Stuff and General Andrews for those who might have missed the last webinar. Hot Stuff and her crew were the first in the 8th Air Force to complete 25 and 31 missions in World War II. They completed their 25th mission 3.5 months before the Memphis Belle. They completed their 31st mission on March 31st, 1943, 2.5 weeks before the Memphis Belle completed its 25th mission. Lieutenant General Andrews, commander of the European Theater of Operations, needed to get back to Washington, D.C., and decided to fly back along with his staff and 3 chaplains on Hot Stuff. Several crew members had to be bumped from the flight to make room for them. Andrews was a pilot and flew as co-pilot. Hot Stuff crashed into a mountain while attempting to land in bad weather, and all on board were killed except for one crew member, tail gunner George Eisel. My late friend Robert Jake Jacobson was the bombardier on Hot Stuff and was one of those bumped from the flight. He told me the story in 2010, shortly before he died at the age of 93. It was then I decided to try and get recognition for Hot Stuff and attempt to revive the legacy of General Andrews. I also began doing extensive research to verify his story. It took more than a year to identify the crew members and the passengers on board Hot Stuff and learn the details of what had happened. I obtained documents, photos, and letters from various sources, including the National Archives, museums, universities, newspaper archives, and family members. During that time, I also learned about General Andrews and his record as one of America's great military leaders. I wrote letters and put packets together with copies of research material and sent them to the Secretary of the Air Force Chief of Staff, the CEO of the Air Force Association, Director of the National Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, Director of the Smithsonian Institute, and many others requesting their help in getting recognition for Hot Stuff. I received 0 responses. I decided to go to Iceland to try and find and recover pieces of wreckage. My plan was to take the pieces to prominent airplane museums along with documentation and convince them of the story and include the pieces in a display. I knew the name of the mountain where Hot Stuff crashed, but it took almost a year to find anyone who knew anything about it. In a last-ditch effort, I decided to search on the name of the mountain and located a website containing contact information. In June of 2012, I visited Iceland with the goal of visiting the crash site and recovering pieces of Hot Stuff wreckage. I was fortunate to find 2 Icelanders who were familiar with the crash site, Dodi and Ole Martinson. They spend much of their time searching and documenting World War II crash sites in Iceland. The day after I arrived, we were on our way to the crash site near the top of Mount Fagradalsfjall.
Straight ahead, if you look at the sign with the information, the eye,
right,
and the mountain
right behind
that's
it.
The crash site.
How about that? It's that close.
Off-road.
This is the original road the U.S. Army bulldozed to get access to the crash site. It obviously hasn't been improved since then.
I was told the mountain was fairly accessible, maybe to sheep, not to human beings. What's up, Dodi?
They forgot to put in 4 bolts that hold the brakes to the car.
Oh no.
But they're sending someone with equipment to fix it.
Okay.
And I think maybe that you and Ole maybe stroll on ahead and
Okay.
And I'll come back in half an hour, maybe an hour, and let's go. I'm
See you later.
Sending you off.
Okay.
And if you don't return, is there an address or a phone number at home?
Right.
Okay.
See you later. We're starting up the mountain to the crash site. It's very difficult climbing. We are here. We're at the crash site. He has a piece of metal right there.
All over the place.
Pieces of the airplane.
First you found on your visit to the crash site.
Wow.
This is just the beginning.
Amazing, huh? This is looking toward Keflavik International Airport. It was Meeks Field during the war. This is where they tried to land at Meeks Field, but couldn't. And we're heading back to Calderon when they crashed into this mountain. This is part of the main landing gear.
The dried up wreath was placed on the landing gear by the United States Ambassador to Iceland, Louis Arriaga, in 2011.
Part of the landing gear that's within the wing structure. You see, this is part of the webs from the.
Mm-hmm.
That riveting was probably done by women in the United States, and it's a very good job, professional job.
Form a search party and search the rough ground over here. We know of one piece out there which is fairly big, which has some letters, some writing on it that might be interesting.
We're walking in the lava fields, looking for pieces of the airplane that might have blown down the mountain. And there's an engine cowling out here somewhere. Dodie located a big piece of wreckage. So did Oli.
B-24, that's D, aircraft number 51G, engine number 4, top.
How about that, huh? Would you turn that around? There we go. Well, here we are, almost back to civilization. Oh yes, a smooth road at last. We are going to try and raise the money for a memorial that would be placed on this spot and would point out the site of the wreck on the mountain. Thank you, Dodie and Ole Martinson, for taking me up to the mountain. I really do appreciate it. And Jake, this was for you, my friend.
I had arranged for a meeting with the United States Ambassador to Iceland, Luis Arriaga, and invited Dutty and Ole to attend. Ambassador Arriaga knew the story of what had happened to General Andrews because he participated in the dedication of the Andrews Theater, a former U.S. Navy base theater. He was very interested in the story of Hot Stuff and committed to help us with securing property for the monument if we could find a location. I committed to raise the funds if we could find a good location. Dutty and Ole found a site, and true to his word, Ambassador Arriaga helped us with getting the town of Grindavik to provide the land. The site was close to a main highway with a mountain where the crash occurred in the background. I located the 93rd Bombardment Group Association website and read that they were holding their annual reunion in Seattle, Washington. I contacted the group and asked to make a presentation. I brought a piece of Hot Stuff wreckage with me and requested their help in using their nonprofit status to set up a Hot Stuff Monument Project account so donations would be tax deductible. They approved my request and one of the members agreed to manage the account. It took 6 years to raise $100,000 needed for the monument. Donations came from individuals, large and small companies, charity foundations, and 4 fundraising golf tournaments. It took 3 trips to the National Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, Ohio to convince them of the Hot Stuff story. I was then invited to speak to the history departments at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs and the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. The Air Force Academy invited me back to speak to a class of cadets. The National Museum of the Air Force now has a display with pieces of Hot Stuff wreckage sitting next to the newly restored B-17 Memphis Belle. The title above the display reads, Heavy Bomber Firsts. The Memphis Belle was not the first United States Army Air Force heavy bomber to finish 25 missions. It was the first to complete 25 missions over Europe and return to the United States. Hot Stuff finally received long overdue recognition for being first. There is also a large display featuring pieces of Hot Stuff at Joint Base Andrews, and there will soon be a display at the Southern Museum of Flight in Birmingham, Alabama. Several designs were considered. It had to be able to withstand the severe weather of Iceland. The final design was selected in 2015. The text is in Icelandic and English. The right side honors those who died in the accident, and the left side honors the heroic accomplishments of Hot Stuff and her crew. Sculptor Terry Hine of Julesburg, Colorado, spent more than 6 months building a stainless steel model of Hot Stuff that would be the monument centerpiece. The stone portion was built by an Iceland company and consists of black granite from South Africa and native basalt. The base was donated by the company that did the installation. After a 6-year effort, the monument honoring the crew and passengers of the B-24 Liberator Hot Stuff was installed in Grindavik, Iceland on April 28, 2018.
It flies. It flies.
The monument was dedicated on May 3, 2018, the 75th anniversary of the accident.
Lieutenant General Richard Clark, Commander of the 3rd Air Force, United States Air Forces in Europe, Jill Esposito, United States Embassy, Chargé d'Affaires, Ulager Thor Thordarson, Iceland Minister of Foreign Affairs, Thorsten and Oliver Martinson, and Jim Lux assisted in the monument unveiling and the laying of the wreaths. Manny Aldez, a family member of Hot Stuff crew member Sergeant Grant Rondo, played taps. A B-52 Stratofortress from the 5th Bomb Wing out of Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, and a helicopter from the Iceland Coast Guard made passes over the monument in honor of Hot Stuff's passengers and crew. A memorial service followed, at the Andrews Theater in Keflavik. After the war, General Andrews was honored when Camp Springs Army Airfield in Maryland was renamed Andrews Field, now Joint Base Andrews, the home of Air Force One. Since then, the accomplishments of this great leader have been nearly forgotten, and the first heavy bomber in the 8th Air Force to complete 25 missions, and her crew and those on board who were killed, were soon forgotten until now.
Lieutenant General Andrews was in line for promotion to general when he died. Senator Mike Braun from Indiana and Representative Anthony Brown from Maryland have introduced bills to have General Andrews promoted to general posthumously. Once again, I truly appreciate the opportunity to tell this heroic though tragic story of the B-24 Liberator hot stuff and General Andrews.
I made a presentation to the West Pointers of Central Texas in 2014. One of the members approached me after the presentation and said he thought the story of hot stuff should be made into a movie. He also said he was a writer and would like to write a book. I agreed and provided him with research material and put him in touch with Bill Gross, the radio operator on the B-24 Eager Beaver. Bill was the best friend of Ken Jeffers, the radio operator killed on board Hot Stuff. He also knew the other crew members and flew most of the same missions with Hot Stuff. He was the technical advisor on Before the Belle. The book is a comprehensive account of Hot Stuff from when the crew picked it up in New Hampshire to details of its final flight and tragic ending in Iceland. Before the Belle was awarded a gold medal from the Military Writers Association of America and received rave reviews on Amazon. The book is a limited edition, and Al has them available for sale to help in the fundraising effort to get Diamond Lil back in the air. Scott Stewart, son of Carol Stewart, author of Ted's Traveling Circus, donated copies to Al to help raise funds for Diamond Lil. The book is the most comprehensive account of any bomb group in World War II. It also contains eyewitness accounts in detail of Operation Tidal Wave, the heroic though tragic raid on the Ploesti oil fields in Romania. A limited number of metal plaques were made honoring Hot Stuff's crew and those who died in the accident. Every plaque contains a small piece of Hot Stuff recovered from the crash site. It's a true collector's item for anyone interested in owning a historic piece of World War II memorabilia.
We all look forward to seeing Diamond Lil back in the air.